Belizeans will be asked to decide upon the most important issue of our time, whether to submit the Guatemala claim to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. This decision we take will affect our nation and its future development. Every Belizean, therefore, must learn the facts and be fully informed about the issue. We, the people, will decide.
How did we get to this point? From 1962, when Belizeans first joined the British at the negotiations in Puerto Rico, to the present, Belizean officials have been in talks with Guatemala in search of a final solution to Guatemala's unfounded claim. All attempts at reaching a negotiated settlement failed. These attempts included negotiations, mediation, even facilitation under the auspices of the OAS. These attempts failed because Guatemala has insisted on getting territory, while Belize negotiators have refused to make any such concessions. After the failure of the Ramphal-Riker facilitation process, Belize and Guatemala signed in 2005 the Agreement on a Framework for Negotiations and Confidence-Building Measures under the Organization of American States. The parties agreed to launch another round of negotiations aimed at settling the dispute. Very significantly, the agreement provided that, quote, while the territorial referendum is being negotiated with the assistance of the OAS, if the Secretary General determines that it is not possible to arrive at an agreement on some of the issues, he shall recommend that the parties submit those to either the International Court of Justice or an International Court of Arbitration, juridical bodies established under international law for the solution of controversies, unquote. The negotiations after 2 years showed no prospects for success, as the parties were no closer to finding a viable solution. This is why in November 2007, the Secretary General of the OAS made his recommendation that the parties submit the dispute to the ICJ, and in December 2008, the two countries signed the special agreement between Belize and Guatemala to submit Guatemala's territorial, insular, and maritime claim to the International Court of Justice. Article 7 of the special agreement commits the parties to undertake the procedures set forth in their respective national systems to submit to referenda the decision to bring to the International Court of Justice the final settlement of the territorial dispute.
So what is the ICJ? In 1946, the International Court of Justice was established by the United Nations as the principal judicial arm of the organization. Its main function is to settle legal disputes between member nations. Its 15 judges, who are highly versed in international law, come from all over the world and are elected for 9-year terms by the UN General Assembly. Judges that sit on the International Court of Justice are among the most experienced and highly respected practitioners of international law. They are duty-bound to act strictly in accordance with the statute of the court, the United Nations Charter, and international law.
What have our leaders been saying about the process? Since independence, leaders of both of the major political parties have been involved in the negotiations, and it has been the position of both the People's United Party and the United Democratic Party that the Guatemalan claim is of such national security concern that it must not be treated as a partisan issue. Together with the support of the churches and civil society, Belize has remained consistent, firm, and united in defending our right to self-determination with full territorial integrity. Present and past leaders have always insisted that we must seek a definitive peaceful settlement of this dispute.
We should not lightly walk away from the opportunity to legally end this unfounded claim once and for all. But the decision is ultimately personal to each and every citizen. And whichever way it goes, the sovereign will of the people will be rigorously maintained and defended by government.
We will work with the government on finding a peaceful and lasting solution to Guatemala's unfounded claim to Belizean territory, clear in the understanding that we will never surrender 1 square centimeter of what we know to be rightfully Belizean territory, be it land, sea, or river.
All of us want to live in peace with our neighbors. We want our borders recognized so that we can develop our land and protect our natural resources for the next generation. We cannot sit back and do nothing about the claim. We know that Guatemala will not drop its claim to Belize on its own accord, and Guatemala knows that Belize will not agree to the surrender of Belizean territory. This has been our consistent position for over half a century of negotiations. The issue facing every Belizean is whether we should resort to the ICJ to finally and definitively settle the Guatemalan claim. After all other efforts have failed, Belizeans must decide whether more non-binding efforts will solve the problem. We must decide if the ICJ option is acceptable in our national efforts to find a final and lasting solution so as not to burden the next generation with this problem. If we agree, then it is our patriotic duty to know the issue.
It is imperative that we stay together. It is imperative that, in fact, reason prevail. And it's imperative that all our actions are informed with the facts, and that we take no action in this matter that is not properly examined thoroughly and found to be in the best interest of this country at all times.
I am passionate about this education process because I understand the important role that it plays in making an informed decision. We, as the young, brilliant minds of this country, must stand up, participate, and be continually engaged in national issues, especially an issue of this magnitude.
This is not new. It might feel new to us, it might be scary to us, but all around us, people have been going to the ICJ to fix that problem. But here's the thing, to settle the Belize-Guatemala dispute, that matter must be determined by all Belizeans who are able to vote. And so the decision rests with the Belizean people. What we want to do is to make you be more aware so that you can make an informed decision. In the end, you must understand that you carry this burden just like me because I'm a Belizean just like you.
The special agreement sets out the question you will be asked in the referendum. Do you agree that any legal claim of Guatemala against Belize relating to land and insular territories and to any maritime areas pertaining to these territories should be submitted to the International Court of Justice for final settlement, and that it determines finally the boundaries of the respective territories and areas of the parties? You will be asked to decide yes or no. We have always been confident in the righteousness of our cause, for it is just. We live in this land as our ancestors have for centuries. We know that we have a right to self-determination and to all our territory from the proud Rio Hondo to the old Sarstoon. We have title to this land, but our neighbor says no. After endless negotiations, should we take the matter to court? This is a matter that the Belizean people will be asked to decide. And as long as we remain united in our cause and firm in our conviction, we will be victorious. For it remains that el pueblo unido jamás será vencido. You decide, and together, let us always keep moving forward as one nation, one people.
Get up for we believe. Get up for we believe. Get up for we believe. Believe forevermore. Get up for we believe.